Welcome back. Now, for many of us, travel seems like a distant memory, with thoughts of lying on a beach, pina colada in hand, up there with winning the lottery, really.
So what do you do when you can't go on holiday? Well, you can reminisce about them, of course, and that's exactly what best-selling novelist and travel writer Michelle Walsh-Jackson is doing in her brand new podcast, The Novel Traveller. She joins us now from her very exotic, very tropical town of Howth. A very good morning to you, Michelle.
Good morning, Michelle.
Lovely to see you, Anna and Simon. Thanks for having me on.
Delighted to have you, Michelle. As I said in the introduction, we can't go on holidays, but there's no reason why we can't talk about favourite destinations, bucket list stuff. In terms of travel, when the world opens up again and we're all vaccinated and we're all excited about, visiting new countries and cities, what changes do you think will be long-lasting beyond COVID, Michelle?
Well, I do think, a travel passport of some sort, we will see something like that emerging. I mean, some countries like Ethiopia, if you leave them, you do require to show that you've been vaccinated. So it's not something completely new. The use of masks is something that the Asians have done for years on airplanes. I was in China a couple of years ago, and nearly everyone on the plane had one. So there will be slight changes, but we have to remember that travel will continue. People are pioneers, adventurers, and we love travel. And this too shall pass. It's very difficult at the moment to be positive. Yeah. But we have to remember the human spirit. We will keep travelling.
We will. Well, we've been asking every guest over the last 12 months, Michelle, how has lockdown been for them? And for you, and for someone who makes their living writing about travelling, you haven't been able to do it for 12 months. So is that where the inspiration came from for the podcast?
Yeah, well, it did. It did actually, because, I had a travel slot regularly with Ivan Yates on News Talk, and of course with the lovely Elaine Crowley on The Elaine Show. I'd be on every 2 weeks there with Travel Tuesday. So, I'm still doing them, but it's taken a different turn. So I had to be more creative. And I decided to turn the tables on Ivan. And suddenly I thought, well, why don't I do this with lots of other interesting guests and listen to their stories, because everyone loves hearing about different places and funny stories they've had and things they've seen. So I've caught up with a few other friends, and I've got a great lineup of guests. The podcast goes out every Friday. It's on all the usual channels. And, you can find out about all this on my website, thenoveltraveller.com. I always say that's my kind of base. It's the joining of my novels and my travel. So I became the Novel Traveller about 6 years ago when I started travel writing really seriously, So
tell us about the first episode with our old pal Ivan Yates, because this is a tricky one. Obviously, you know him as well from contributing to his radio show. Ivan's a tricky person because he wants to travel and explore and has a great curiosity and interest in new things, but doesn't like to fly. So how did this unfold?
And he actually reveals why he doesn't like flying. I don't want to do a spoiler on the podcast now, but it goes back to when he was quite young and a flying experience in a 2-seater plane. So if you listen in, you listen to the podcast, you'll get the full rundown. But Ivan loves experiences. He loves his horse racing. He loves his sport. So places where he can experience that. And he had his great bucket list trip to the States as well, which he speaks really, really in detail about.
You talk about, Michelle, about travelling and even, as you say, listening to other people's stories about travel. It's great escapism for us. You've given your readers some escapism with your latest book, Journey to the Heartland. Tell us about the book.
Well, it's something that I started a few years ago, but because I've been travelling so much, I hadn't finished it. And I had no excuse with the lockdown. And I actually have started an imprint, The Novel Press, in keeping with everything I do. And this book, I said, it has to go out sooner than later. And a lot of books are being pushed back, and waiting for publishers to go through the whole thing would take so long. So I have it out now. And it's for sale on with Kenny's website, Kenny's great bookshop in Galway. And the reason I'm selling it through them is because I really want to support Irish businesses at this time. The hospitality industry has been hit so badly, all the little restaurants, businesses all over the place. So Kenny's is a really reputable Irish family business, and I'm really proud to be selling it through them. And of course you can buy it on Amazon and that, but I see the sun is chasing me now. Isn't that great? Is that a sign of good things to come, guys?
Positivity.
That's very fitting indeed for the point of this interview, Michelle. Can I ask you, as someone who loves to check into a hotel, who doesn't, right? But I love the extra touches that you get in a hotel, especially when the nicer of hotels go above and beyond. What kind of touches have you come across amongst your extensive travels where you had this moment of, oh, isn't that just lovely?
Oh, yeah. Well, a little romantic break in Barbados. We came back to the room one night and they had run a bath and left a bottle of champagne and rose petals. So we came in the door after coming back from the pool. It's myself and my other half. And it was just really
I would have immediately walked into the room and thought somebody's broken in. That's what I would have thought.
They break in, I love that.
Listen, when, as you say, everything will go eventually return to normal, hopefully.
This too shall pass.
Exactly. When it does, Michelle, two questions here. Where is top of your destination list? And also then, for us, Michelle, in terms of places we might never have been before or not well-travelled paths, where should we be looking at?
Well, a lot of islands have done incredibly well with COVID and they've handled it really well. Places like Barbados, Fiji, Seychelles, and they're opening up already for guests. And they have stringent programs going. And there's a great article Paula Congela wrote in the Indo about the Seychelles, and 70% of the population have been planning to be vaccinated really quickly. So, countries like that will be really great bucket list destinations.
They sound incredible, don't they?
They really do. You're really putting us in the mood for travel. This is your 8th book, Michelle, is it?
This is my 8th. My other novels are they all have a number in them, and they're set in different places, like 4 a.m. in Las Vegas, 5 Peppermint Grove, 2 days in Biarritz. But this book is called Journey to the Heartland because it was like a journey to my own heartland over the last few years. I went on a remarkable trip with my father through Oklahoma, and we stayed in ranches, and we kind of integrated with all the Indian, Native American culture, and we learned an awful lot on that process. And I learned a lot about myself traveling with my father. And the older generation are seen as vulnerable now in the media so much. And the older generation are remarkable. They've been through so much. They've been through hard times, and we have to listen to them and listen to their guidance as much as protect them. There's a lot to be learned from listening to their stories and their experiences, and they'll help us through.
In terms of the podcast, you mentioned, of course, Ivan Yates is going to be on there, but you've got an incredible lineup of guests, Michelle. You have Rick O'Shea in there, Ian Dempsey.
Yeah.
A great roster of guests.
Sally Ann Clark, Linda Marr, Madeleine Keane. And it's lovely to have a book connection. Patricia Scanlon has actually agreed to it, but she has to have a procedure first. But it's great to have a mix of voices and to hear lots of different people's experiences. Ivan is hilarious, though, and I don't interrupt him too much because he used to interrupt me all the time on radio.
And now it's working the other way.
Yeah.
Is there one hotel or city or town that is a common theme amongst all of the people you've spoken to in terms of a real hotspot that we need to visit or a favourite?
Well, people do like, they either love Asia or they don't. Everybody seems to love America. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And that's why I've written about America. And I will just mention the book has been chosen for the Hope Foundation USA Book Club read for March. Now, it's not advertised yet, but it will be from February the 18th when the current book club has finished. So I'm the first Irish author that's been chosen for their USA Book Club. So I'm very proud of that.
Congrats.
And with the American-Irish connection, it's lovely.
Well, listen, Michelle, continued success. Can't wait to dig into the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye, guys.
Pleasure.
Now, a reminder that Michelle's new podcast, The Novel Traveller, is available on goloudnow.com, or you can get her new book, Journey to the Heartland, on Amazon or kennys.ie.
The lady radiates positivity.
She does, doesn't she?
Up next, we're
Sunshine
talking
in the
fashion.
window.
Why have I still got my arms out?
No idea.
See you after the break.